The Milwaukee Brewers are forced into an impossible decision as we have an update regarding Brandon Woodruff and where he currently stands for being on the NLDS roster. We're going to be talking about that as well as a surprising name that is looking to be left off this postseason roster and who could be replacing him on that instance. We're going to be breaking it down here in this video, but one thing before we do jump in, I want to say to you guys is if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. We're posting all of your Brewers news throughout this postseason right here. You won't want to miss it. And with this bye, we have a lot of stuff coming over this week when games are getting underway today, and the Brewers are closely watching for who their matchup will be against. So like I said, I'm going to have all the news for you right here. If you haven't hit the sub button, be sure to do so. But let's jump straight into this one because I want to first touch on Brandon Woodruff. A lot of stuff has been going on. We've had some injury updates regarding him. He's spoken out about it, and we've also been waiting for one big update, which has yet to come out. But an MLB insider, Adam McCalvey, Brewers insider as well, has spoken out about Brandon Woodruff and given an update on where we currently stand. And this is what he had to say first of all. And bear with me, there's a big quote, and I have another one here coming. So if you want to pause, give it a read, absolutely do so. He says, Pat Murphy said a couple of times over the weekend that an announcement on Brandon Woodruff was imminent within days, but said announcement never came. Woodruff was back with the team at least as of Saturday, but he was not an option. It was not in the clubhouse during the time and was open to reporters. So I can't exactly answer what's going on there, except to say that all of the parties involved, Woodruff, his surgeon, the Brewers, and the doctors are taking their time to make sure everyone is on the same page about what they want to say about his chances of pitching again this season. So this is quite a big update compared to what we've had over the last couple of days with a lot of uncertainty surrounding this, but now it's seeming a lot more significant than what it originally looked like. And heading into this, you want to make sure Brandon Woodruff is all right because, as we know, he's been a phenomenal pitcher throughout this season. He would be an absolute perfect option as well for the Game 3 of the NLDS, which of course would still be a very important game regardless of what happens, but now we're left with many open options since him and Jose Quintana are still hurt. So going into it, and I mean, what Brandon Woodruff would provide and has provided for this team over this season would be very tough to find elsewhere, and as you see from this graph here, every graph here, he's been on top of everything this year. He's been absolutely fantastic. Players have been missing. He's been perfect. And for what his player style, his pitching style does for whether it be the Padres or the Cubs, he would be a perfect example of what we would need to do to close out this series. So this is a big loss, obviously, regarding Brandon Woodruff, whether or not he will return in the NLDS or the NLCS. But going into it, there's still a lot of question marks. And Adam McCalvey did continue on with this through this article, saying it's almost certainly complicated because with the players who suffer late season injuries, there's the will to want to come back and play, and there's the risk for the rest of the career associated with that. If they close the door to a comeback, what if he changes his mind later? What if it leaves the door open to a comeback? Are they setting up the fans for disappointment if he doesn't? There's a lot to consider. I would imagine we have to sit tight on this one for now. I keep coming back to this one thing. When Woodruff discussed when Woodruff discussed this with us in St. Louis after the news broke of his injury, he spoke in the past tense, which is not what we want to see. Obviously, coming out of Brandon Woodruff, things could be better on this front, but the fact that they're not shutting the door on this yet, the fact that this is still an option here, is at least what's keeping me right now kind of in the mindset of it being a possibility. And the way that we've seen everybody speak about this, the way that we've seen everybody kind of imply what's going on right now, there are going to be serious decisions coming down, and it's seeming more and more likely that the NLDS roster is going to be released on the morning of Game 1, when the limit is, when the deadline is for this roster to be released. So we're still going to wait. At least at this point right now, that seems like what the update we have is. And with the rotation that currently stands, Freddy Peralta, Quinn Priester, and whether it be Chad Patrick, whether it be Jacob Mizorowski, and one of you guys brought up a very good point in the comments below about Jacob Mizorowski, is that we have to trust him. You got to get that momentum back. We have to trust him, and that he has to get that energy and kind of mood back into him that he can do this, and he will be able to do this. So let me know what you think about that, how this kind of changes your mindset on the rotation, as well as Brandon Woodruff possibly coming back. And if you want to see him, withhold the NLDS, come back hopefully in the NLCS, or what the plan you would put in for him is, because as we saw Pat Murphy say, the whole situation behind it, the surgeon, the doctor, the training staff, the Brewers themselves, and Brandon Woodruff all kind of have to be on the same page to make the thing that we want to happen happen. So let me know what you think about that. But of course, we do have some more updates regarding this, and the NLDS roster still not finalized, but there are some players that are going to be on the cusp of not making it. And one that we have here from the NLDS is from Adam McCalvy once again, predicted that Rhys Hoskins will not make the club's initial playoff roster. Now, he's not saying that he won't make the roster at all, but the initial roster for this NLDS, whether it be the Cubs or the Padres, it does seem like, and it most likely is going to be the case, that Rhys Hoskins will not make this roster. And going on what a quote from Pat Murphy, he said, "You're not looking to win a batting title in the postseason. You're looking to win pitches. So all the things we do all year kind of match up with how you've got to go about this." And I think that's going to be, even though nobody believes it, I think that's going to be a big plus for us because we're playing this type of baseball all year. Now, with this implication, he doesn't necessarily go out and say, hey, Rhys Hoskins is not going to be here, but playing the game that we've played all year, and really kind of this applies with, once again, the pitching as well with what we just saw, that you have to keep what you're doing, so kind of implies with Brandon Woodruff as well, but with what we've seen from Rhys Hoskins this year, it doesn't to me say that he will make this roster. It doesn't to me seem like he is a guy that has the opportunity to make this roster, and especially when you go and take a look and kind of what other options are there. Adam McCalvy gave a very good insight on this idea and said one of the position players' side first baseman Rhys Hoskins was the most difficult omission given the postseason experience and veteran status, but he's played so sparingly since coming off the injury list that it's difficult to keep him over Brandon Lockridge, who is a valuable pinch runner and defensive sub in the outfield. And of course, when we do take a kind of idea and mindset of Brandon Lockridge in here, certainly not the power that we've seen from Rhys Hoskins in the past, but not even really the batting, skill. But the more importance at this point right now is the defensive sub and the pinch runner, because we know that there's going to be a lot of moves going on internally on this team in the postseason. We know that Pat Murphy has said that everything will be on the table, whatever it be. This is what this Brewers team is going to have to go about. So even though you may not have the hitting in Brandon Lockridge that you do in Rhys Hoskins, every single part of this is better in, in the foresight for this with what kind of moves would be made if you're down in a game, if you're up in a game, whatever happens. It is just a much smarter decision to go about and have that going about. And when you're taking a look at this kind of depth chart right now as well, I really don't see anybody other than Rhys Hoskins on this list in the depth chart that wouldn't make this roster. I mean, you want to keep two catchers. Of course, Jefferson Chourio is up here this week, kind of going about that. Don't know if he makes the roster, but is someone else that can be there if need be. You go in the outfield, Jake Bauers. Maybe, I think that he's still someone that will certainly be here, but Brandon Lockridge, playing 25% of the outfield here in this season. Definitely someone that has to be on this roster for just the security that he provides to this team. So I want to know what you guys think about these updates. Of course, Brandon Woodruff being the big one here. No uncertainty surrounding him and his postseason right now. Not even just the NLDS, the postseason at this point. But also I want to know what you guys think about the omission of Rhys Hoskins. I think it's a good one. I think it's smart at this point right now. And if you see something happen when he's not in the lineup and something happens for him to fall in, I'd be very okay with it either way. But right now, I think we're in a very good spot. Of course, there's lots of time to make the decisions. The Brewers are going to have a lot of time to kind of evaluate what's going on, watch these games closely, and work with the matchups. But that's all I got here on this one. We're going to have a game tonight starting very, very soon to watch all of these games and get to know our opponents very well once again while we get to sit, get healthy, watch, and evaluate. That's all I got here on this one, though. If you enjoyed, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. And remember, I'm going to have all of your Brewers content here throughout the postseason right here, so be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.